So while we have a moment, we do want to remind you right here at KSMO Radio, 1340 AM, 95.7 FM, and online at ksmoradio.com, as well as our KSMO Stream Facebook page. And we welcome you to listen in. And here he's making his way in as we even speak. Good morning, sir.
Good morning.
And how are we this morning?
We are dandy.
Dandy. I use that term all the time myself. Yes, sir.
I have all kinds of terms. I'm from Texas. We grow terms.
Well, I was just in San Antonio, so
What were you doing there?
just down there for the Thanksgiving holiday.
It's gorgeous there.
Yeah.
Did you get to do the river?
We did a river walk, went to the up in the Tower of the Americas, and took a nice dinner up there. That's where we had Thanksgiving.
Did you get to the Alamo?
Did. Right there in the heart of town. Can't miss it.
Can't miss it. It's easy to get to.
Easy to get to. There are a lot of things in San Antonio to go to, so enjoyed our time there.
Beautiful city with lots of culture.
It was. And we went to Little Mexico down there in the Market Square, so yeah, very interesting.
Did you come home with any trinkets?
Personally, I didn't, but the other half did.
It is a trinket-rich environment.
Yes, it is. A lot of good souvenirs, but there's a lot of heritage down there. It really is kind of fun, and it's been a mixture. When you read the history of the Alamo with the French, the Spaniards, the war in Mexico, and man, it's amazing how many different peoples actually had come through that area.
There was a lot of flux in that region for a long period of time. What's really interesting when you go there is the decor for everything there looks very similar.
Yeah, very unique architecture there, and I was looking at that. A lot of the different influences are all shown in some of their architecture, which makes it kind of fun.
I lived in Corpus Christi, which is sort of in that region,
right?
So
Not too far away.
It's got similar culture, so. Lots of rooms, color. When you go to a
right.
home, their rooms are all painted in very vibrant colors.
Very vibrant.
It's very eclectic. And back when I was doing it, there was a fair number of terracotta dogs and stuff it's very neat.
Yeah.
I loved it.
Very interesting city.
And good food.
And very good food. You have a wide array of different options to choose from for food. No doubt about it. So Anyway, enjoyed ourselves very much, and if I'd have known, I could have asked you for all that information. I could have done that years ago. I guess I left my notes in the other room. Oh, well, okay. I'll go get them in a minute. Anyway, one of the things that we want to talk about, obviously, not only was it a board of directors meeting, but it was also the audit report from what used to be BK&D, and now they've changed their name. But Gene Nyberg, I didn't see that one coming. I don't know where that name came from, but it doesn't make any
Forward
difference.
Vision, I think, is what it stands for.
Okay. But anyway, Gene Nyberg came. She's been with them for a long time and has done the hospital audit many times. One of the nice things we always like to have, and since I went to school and became an accountant, is the unmodified opinion, which is always a good opinion to get.
And I'd say overall the unmodified opinion was pretty favorable for where we are. I would say that if we have a similar opinion 5 years from now, I may not have that perspective, but coming from where we've come, I think overall it was a very good audit. I want to call out and thank Joanne and the whole accounting team they spent, I don't know, you probably do because you're an accountant, but that disrupts the entire going through an audit and answering the auditor's questions all day in the midst of all the other things that you have to do in a small, busy department is very difficult, and I wanted to thank all of them for that.
One of the hardest things in the last few years with the audits has been the CARES Act money, the Medicare funding, how that gets paid back. And they, of course, we all know it seemed like Medicare changed the rules virtually every other day while all this was going on. Very difficult for any accounting department to keep up with all that. And then come near the end of the year, there's going to be some adjustments that are going to have to be made because there's no way you can keep up with all that.
Yeah, and I would say that some of the reason for the recent difficulty was because I think that while well-intentioned, I don't think that we had a good handle on things, and I think we're still paying for some of that now. So I think if you take sort of a confluence of things, if you take the pandemic, which was very difficult for everybody to manage, if you take the fact that rural healthcare is very difficult to manage financially anyway, you lay on top of that the CARES Act funding, you lay on top of that any level of mismanagement at all, and I don't mean that it's just you have to be so fine, you have to be so accurate in what you do in order to be able to produce things that it can get out of hand pretty quick. But I would say that the position that we're in is much stronger than it was.
I'm not in the hospital business, but when all of a sudden you're dictated to as to here's COVID, this is how you're going to do it, and you're being told by the government, well, and then they're changing the rules as they go along. And in management, you've got people that you have to suddenly say, okay, no, we can't have visitors here, we can't do this. Emergency room, you're going to have to do this before putting them into a patient room, and then it's going to be specific patient rooms that are going to be set aside. You talk about throwing your hospital into a total
and all
chaos.
of that designed by people who were hundreds and hundreds of miles away and likely have never tried to function in a rural healthcare environment.
That's the key right there.
One of the things that I said throughout this was that I wish had been done differently is I wish they had let the people who are operators operate, because we know our environment, we know our teams, we know what our facilities can and can't do, we know what we can and can't handle. And when you have people who are well-intentioned making those decisions for you from a distance, it makes it very difficult to manage your day. And so we all went through that for the last 2 years.
So very good. So, but looking at the numbers, though, really wasn't unexpected of what this audit showed.
No.
You know, there's a $1.8 million had an increase in revenues, that's the good news. Bad news is you had a decrease in your net position of $1.667 million. But that was expected.
It was.
Because you had to pay back all this Medicare money. Yep. You were not even being reimbursed, but 50%.
Yep, and I would say that if you look around at Becker's and if you look at all the other healthcare journals, there are lots of places who are in a lot worse financial position because they had to pay that back. And the fact that the hospital has gone through what they've gone through and been able to pay that back is a tribute to the people who are there. It is really hard work.
One of the things that has changed, and maybe a lot of people may not understand this, is the long-term debt to capitalization ratio. That now includes some capital leases. So there's a little bit of change in the accounting rules. It now stands at 29%. And I know a lot of times I remember our hospital's long-term debt to capitalization was like 3%, if that. At times.
I think carrying a little debt is not a bad thing.
No, it's
our
never.
Our debt to cap is very good. It's very strong, and she pointed that out.
Exactly. Also, the net operating margin, which, it doesn't sound good at a negative 18.8%. But last year was 28.4%. That's a nice turnaround, and it shows the progression of coming back.
Yeah. The trajectory is in the right direction.
Very, very good. So in this year's audit, and part of this is going on during this transformer changeover and stuff. So you're getting some ARPA funds that are going to have to be accounted for next year. Most of those didn't come until after the June 30th cutoff date.
Yep.
So a lot of that's going to be going on. But of course, they always put out the deficiency. You never have enough people to do everything. And the other thing was the journal entries and reconciliations. But that's kind of a carryover from last year.
Yep.
It's just trying to get everything back to
one
normal.
Of the things that good accounting practices gap tells you how you're supposed to have people have duties divided, and in a large organization that is very easy to do. In a small organization where you have just a couple of people, that is more difficult to do. But I will say that we have oversight for all of those things so that we can make sure that while people are doing two jobs that in a normal organization, in a bigger organization they might not do, here we have oversight of that.
All right, very good. And of course, she made there was a question by AJC about how long, in her opinion, it's going to take the hospital to kind of get back to a normal. And she mentioned the way the hospitals are going right now that she doesn't see that minimum of 12 months, but more likely 18 to 24 months.
I agree with that.
Yeah.
I agree with that. And I sort of said that whenever I interviewed here, when I first started talking to folks, a turn of this nature in a good environment would be 18 to 24 months. And no healthcare right now is in a good environment, so this will be good. But I will tell you that today our hospital is full, and that cures a lot of issues financially.
Exactly, very good. So overall, though, the audit report was a good one by Jean, and I always like to hear her comments. And The hardest thing is to look in the future, because you never know what Medicare is going to do. You never know what the legislature is going to do that's going to end up affecting hospitals in the next year. And so, as of right now, the hospital is on the right track.
It is. And I think that was the big takeaway, that while there, and I was talking to our county treasurer the other day. We were there to do some business with her, and she asked how things are, and I said, I think that here in the not too distant future, we are going to be just as terrified as every other critical access hospital in America right now, because it is really a difficult business to be in.
It is.
But we choose it because it's important.
Well, it's a key to our community. It really is.
Important.
It's super big. Well, let's move on and get off the audit report, because as that was all done, and after a few comments and different things, and they always talk about what what they expect Medicare to do, but there's no guarantee into that. It's just all talk. Yeah. Yeah, they might do this. Well, they might do anything, and they might reimburse you. But let's put it this way: hospitals reimbursement now is back to 100% because you have paid off that debt totally. Yeah. So one of the few hospitals in our area that paid off that debt totally without paying any interest or penalty. I think that's key, Wayne.
It is. I was shocked to find that we were in that condition. That shocked in a good way. Mm-hmm. I was very pleased. Very pleased.
Very good. Well, let's move on to the actual board of directors meeting, and in the administrator's report, which happens to be your report, the Missouri Board of Pharmacy inspection was held.
So it's either coincidence or not a coincidence, but right after we changed our pharmacist in charge, we got a pharmacy visit. I think that they're, because of the COVID and everything, they're a little behind, and I think that whenever they go through their list to try to figure out who they're going to go to, oh, here's a new person, let me go see how they're doing. Yeah. And they came in. I think Vanessa had been in that role for about 2 days. And,
oh boy!
And it was a surprise, and it was a regularly scheduled audit. Obviously, they're all unannounced, but she did spectacularly well. The pharmacy team has done. We have a good pharmacy, so that makes it a little easier. But she handled herself well. So welcome to leadership.
Fun time there. All right, you also had an employee survey done on different categories on benefits, engagement, motivation, freedom to engage. And you want to talk to us a little bit about that survey?
Sure. I will say without detail, I will say that the sort of the striking things to me, and these are always a snapshot in time.
Sure.
One day. It's that 1-2 week period, and it's how the organization feels. And that was at a time whenever there was still some uncertainty in the hospital, and so you would expect it to potentially be very bad. But there are two highlights in it. One is that our participation rate was very strong. We had a 48% participation rate, which is about equal with the other Delta Project surveys they did. And the other thing is that most of our survey questions and the responses were in alignment with what the average were. Right. Now, I never want to be an average institution, but being average when they were going through that, I think speaks a lot to the leadership that was in the hospital, and it speaks to the team that's there and their commitment to what they do.
And I looked at one of the categories was freedom to engage, and as you mentioned, you're going through a tumultuous time when nobody really knows what the future is going to hold, and the freedom to engage a lot of times is kind of squelched at that time because you want to keep everything super positive, but the remarks come back. I mean, that was right at average, like you said, or at the benchmark. Yeah. And when I looked at that, I said, wow, that's pretty impressive, because obviously, people were speaking their concerns, letting them be known.
Yeah. And I think I'm not one to rest on laurels, but I think that is a great place from which to start.
Sure.
And so we've got, we rolled out that slide to the leadership team next week. We will go through some of the finer points to the leadership team. Then they will start. And I think the most important part of an employee survey is not that document and not that piece of paper. Right. It's whenever you go back and you talk to people and find out what they meant whenever they filled those things out, because we can sit from our perspective and assume what they mean and be completely wrong. So we're going to go back and talk to them. Unfortunately, we won't be able to get to everybody, but we want to get a sampling of all the departments and find out what they were thinking, so that when we develop our action plan, it'll be an action plan based on what the employees said, maybe not what we think they said.
clarification is huge.
It's huge.
You know, and a lot of people, like you just say, they assume they know what they're thinking. I don't know of anybody that I know what they're thinking when they write an answer.
I will tell you a quick anecdote. A very long time ago, I had responsibility for a small critical access hospital, and one of the questions that we used at that time was, do you have the tools and equipment to do your job? And it scored very, very low. And so it was a small critical access hospital. It was not nearly as well equipped as this one. And so, you know, we all sort of, as leadership, sort of thought what we thought that meant. And you know what we found when we asked them what they meant? They wanted a vacuum cleaner. They wanted to be able to vacuum up their work area, and they needed a vacuum cleaner, and nobody had gotten them a vacuum cleaner. So we had a $50 solve for that problem. Meanwhile, we were off thinking about something else, and we could have done something else and never solved what was really giving them angst, which was a vacuum cleaner.
Wow. That's, yeah, I would never have gotten that out of that question. You know, I would never have either. And I'm sure that's not what the administrative team was looking at when you said tools.
We thinking
equipment.
Bigger thing. You need a new CT scanner. You need new lab analyzers. You need, which was all true. But the thing that was impacting their day-to-day life was they needed a vacuum cleaner.
That's amazing. All right, very good. So the survey went very well. So we're going to move on. You've applied for several different grants. Do you want to elaborate on that just a smidge?
So I will just say that one of the things that we are starting to focus on, I think, better is our grant process. So we have several out. You know, we're looking at a grant right now to be able to afford a lift for our ambulances, because, you know, as Americans get a little bigger, it's a little harder to move folks, and particularly whenever they're very ill. So, you know, we put our ambulance operators and our EMTs at risk when we do that. So one of the grants we're looking at is a way to offset that, and those are not $100 thing; those are tens of thousands of dollars.
Very expensive.
So everything we do is expensive.
And I hope people understand. A lot of times where our ambulances go, it's not concrete and level areas. You're on rocks, mud, dirt, angles, you know, whatever it might be. Because people know you live out in the country. There's not many areas that's absolutely flat with a lot of concrete on it.
Yeah.
Just not there.
So that's just one of the several things, and I know that Tabitha has done some of that. We're sort of changing her role, and one of the things I've asked Tiffin to do, who has a history doing this, is to sort of not just work the grants, but look for them. And are we looking in the right places? Are we looking at the USDA? Are we looking at the AHA? Are we looking at all the places that have grant opportunities? And some of those will be easier to get than others, but the answer to any question is always no if you don't ask it.
Right.
And so if we can throw our hat in the ring to be able to do that to improve our position, I feel like it's important for us.
There's a lot of grants out there. You know, some you're not going to be able to apply for because they won't work for Salem Hospital. That's just the way it is. But there's other ones that might, and you have to actually read them a little bit and find out, hey, we might actually qualify for this.
Yep.
Excuse me.
And if we have somebody, and I think that with some focus on that, I think we'll be able to get more grants.
All right, very good. You have a tree at the Trees and Trains display, and
do.
it's a beautiful tree, I might add. I took a look
And
at
I
that.
have not been there. I can't.
It's
every
gorgeous.
I've not been able to align my calendar for when that's there, moving and whatnot. But I hear it's gorgeous, and the colors of it are in the colors of our new logo. So
very good.
We'll have that out soon.
Very good. So when you see that, it's I won't say it's a turquoise. It's not truly a true turquoise, but it's kind of in that family.
It's greens and blues category.
Yeah, it's beautiful. The tree is absolutely gorgeous. So if you get a chance to, it's right near the train, so I'll give you that idea. Of course, there's quite a few trains in there on the ground and stuff, but where the stand-up trains are in the platform in the middle, you'll see the hospital tree. It is absolutely beautiful. All right. On December 3rd, we have a new feature coming to our SMDH Family Clinic.
We do. The team has worked together, and we're going to open our clinic on Saturdays from 9 to 2. We're going to have limited amounts of scheduled appointments, but the big reason for that is people get sick on the weekend and they don't want to wait till Monday, and we don't want them to have to come to the emergency department. So that gives them a window of opportunity to come and take care of that. I will say yesterday, I know we're talking about the board meeting, but yesterday we had 116 people in our clinic, which is most I've had since I've been here. It was spectacular.
Yeah, coming off the holiday weekend. People
are ill. So
yeah, and there's been a lot of stuff going around town too.
It's good. It's that clinic serves an important purpose.
Very good. Well, let's talk a little bit about the summary of operations for the month of October. Still not at the numbers I think we were looking at, but you see the progression. You see that we're right near the average that we have been for the year, and pretty close to budget for most all the numbers.
I will say that one of the other things that we did last year, because they were in such a hurry to do things, is that they straight line spread the budget. So all of the peaks and valleys of your normal year were smoothed out, and so we in our lower. So we coming out of the summer is sort of a lower use rate for a hospital, and so it's not uncommon to see those things miss. I will say that right now, because we're in the fall and the winter starting, that's when healthcare picks up for us, and that's why we're full now.
Do you think it was done that way, Wayne, because of the COVID, because the numbers were just so skewed and crazy for 2 years?
I think that frankly it was because there was such a sense of urgency, and we put this budget together so quickly that it was really difficult to get trending data. And Joanne did this budget, and we didn't really have good trending because the past 2 years was COVID, and COVID was an anomalous time.
Right.
And so in order to do that quickly, they just flatlined it.
And that's I think the point I was trying to make, because there were times that, how are you going to gauge the hospital's operation? Because with COVID,
we had anomalous spikes. We had anomalous spikes of inpatient because of COVID, and then we had no outpatient because we couldn't do it.
Right.
And, we had surgeries canceled and mammographies stopped. So how do you budget against all that? You just couldn't. So she just took all the volume for the last couple of years and divided it by 12, and that's how.
Yeah, and a lot of times, if you felt bad, you'd call the clinic and they'd say, well, we needed to go take a COVID test before you can even come in.
Yep.
So, there was a lot of different things going on there. And, of course, the rules changed as we went on and on and on. But anyway.
I tell people, particularly early on in the pandemic, obviously I wasn't here, but we would be on calls to talk about, how we were going to address this. And the information would change while we were on the call.
Yeah.
And we would be making decisions on the call that were different than how we started.
Yeah, I think talking to Jason Edwards, he said like every Monday morning they'd have a staff meeting. You think you're going to be up to date for the week. He said on Wednesday morning you have another staff meeting, and they already changed half the stuff that they just talked about Monday.
Yeah, it was
just insane.
The information was coming out unbelievably quickly.
Well, one of the things that has been a trend in the last basically year, and I'll say basically since last February, has been the length of stay with the swing bed operation, which helps the hospital a lot. And you get people back home near their family to get back into the swing of things, because it's really what it is. You're not quite ready to be released, but you don't have to be in intensive care or acute care.
And it's so important that we have recruited Charity Gott. You probably know her.
I do know Charity.
She's going to start on Thursday with us, and her role is going to be in business development. And so she's going to be looking for people in an active way who need those services. And she's got relationships all over the area, and we're going to work those relationships so that we can actually pull patients back home where they need to be. Because you can passively get some, or you can convert some of our patients to swing, but where the big push will be are people who had to leave the area for health care who need to come back.
Right.
And we can go get them.
Not many St. Louis hospitals, I will tell you that you can actually go back to your hometown and get that kind of service. They want you to go someplace where they get a little piece of the pie.
Yep. But again, I feel like she's got those relationships, and frankly, if you're dealing with a case management department at Missouri Baptist, those people are looking for places to place people.
Sure.
And if we can actively look to them and actively be a solution to their placement problems, then that solves a whole lot of things. It puts patients back home where they need to be. And I will tell you that if I need to get health care, I would much rather have it in a small environment.
You bet.
Than in some of those big, more industrial. And they have a purpose, and I'm not diminishing that. But I'd rather it so that my wife can come and see me easier. It's easier on the family, and it's good for the community.
And you get much better attention from the staff. The staff will be there, and you'll get to know the staff quicker, and they're going to have more of an interest in you and what you got to say.
Yeah, because you're likely to see them again when you get out.
That's right. More than likely. Very good. So swing bet has continued to improve over the year. Last October was 8.8. This October, 11.71. Yeah. Three days. That's a lot of days of swing bet for your average, and so very good there. Emergency room visits have been pretty much flat, for the last while. And then, of course, with the admissions at 45 in October, a little bit down.
A little bit down, but that's not
unusual.
Not unusual for this
time of year. Ambulance runs continue to be high, but and we're still at about a 60-40, 65-35, somewhere in there. It's been that way for years.
Yeah, and
the dry runs.
Some of the things that people may not realize is a blessing, but having that ambulance service in this market, and from an administrator's perspective, having it, inside the hospital is an unbelievable blessing to have. Just being able to have access to them. They do great work.
Very good. All right, very good. So the board also took a look at any of those people that were sent to another location, and they get a chance to review that and see why they were sent and actually who sent them.
Yeah, I think one of the things that we want to do, and if you look at the literature would suggest that not every provider admits the same way. And so we want to make sure that we are doing everything we can to keep those people who are appropriate for here. Because if they're appropriate for here, then all of the things I just talked about in the swing program applies to our acute program. They're closer to home. We can do it. We actually provide that care cheaper than they do in a bigger institution. There's everything about having it closer to home is good. Now, that's also not to disparage our providers. They do a great job.
Sure.
And so we're just trying to fine tune that. But again, if we look at our list and there could have been one or two patients in the month that could have stayed, that's a difference for those one or two patients that I'd like to make.
Yeah. Very good. All right, very good. And as we take a look at outpatient registrations, we mentioned October. It's that transitional month. I think September and October are very transitional. November, December, January, February, March, they've kind of been the big 5 months, I think, for Salem Hospital for quite some time. Yep. But it looks like the radiology is picking up. The lab tests are starting to come back. And, of course, surgical procedures have been pretty consistent. Between 27 and 32 pretty much every month. And they're trying to get more and more and more in there.
So we've got I'll make mention while we're talking about, first of all, while we're talking about radiology is on course this month to have a record month. They are doing wonderful work. All of our ancillary services are doing extremely well right now. But I make mention of the fact that our lab has turned the corner in a great way.
Right.
I would say we're about 95% recovered from where we were, which is a tribute to the team that's there. Joe has done, and that group, Christian, and all of those folks have just done phenomenal work. And starting on Monday, we will have a new director of the lab who's coming to us. Melissa Carter is coming to us from Baton Rouge, and she's got a long history in lab. So we've recruited somebody from outside the area. And in fact, she should be here this afternoon. She's going to be.
She could have shown up this morning.
She's leaving Memphis this morning, so she'll be here. But that will help us continue that trend and to provide some needed support to grow that volume even better.
Very good. Very good. And our home health continues to be very, very stable. One of the best in the area. No doubt about that. Not what we wanted to see as far as gain from operations for the month of October, but we know it's just not going to be there. The funds aren't going to be there.
Yep.
We'll look for that to come back.
Yep.
And the hospital continues to provide the great services. The contractuals, I know that you guys always look at contractuals, and people don't quite understand that, Wink. Can you kind of give them a little bit more information?
Yeah, so
why these contractual numbers are so high, and they say, well, why they got to pay so much?
Well, so it's actually not. It's really it's a discount. So whenever we have, it's like if you go into buy furniture, and it's this amount, and you have a contract where you get to buy it at less, then you have to write off that top line amount of money, and that's what we do.
Yeah.
So we have our stated rates for certain things, and then Medicare gets a different rate, so we write off that difference. And so you see. So I was talking to somebody the other day. Well, how with those bills that you have, can you not? How come it's so hard? Well, because nobody pays that amount. Nobody ever pays that amount.
So some people never do pay.
And people never do pay. And I will say that is one of the other things that we're working through, is that one of the key benefits of being a critical access hospital is that you get paid cost. And one of those things on the cost report that you get to pick up is bad debt. And if we have bad debt and we don't account for it appropriately, then we don't get to claim that on our cost report.
Right.
And so we won't be able to do that again this year, but next year when we file our cost report, we've changed our accounting practices in a way that we'll be able to claim that. And we should be.
Every year.
Year.
You should take what is given to you, because you need to be reimbursed.
Yeah, I don't want a dime more than we're owed, but I want every dime that we are owed. Because it's increasingly difficult to get volume, and it's increasingly difficult to get revenue, and we need to get all of it that we're supposed to have.
And let's put it this way: supplies haven't gone down.
No, they go up every year,
and they continue to get still hard to find in many cases.
So everything that we do in healthcare goes up every year, and every year the pressure on payers is to pay us less. So those two things at some point that will reach a critical mass. Every year our salaries go up, every year our supplies go up, every year everything that goes up, and every year they want to pay us less to do it. So we have to figure out a way to manage that.
Very good. Had a net change in cash, went down, but we talked about that.
Yeah.
And of course, we have in those fixed assets, we have actually a little bit of a reduction due to depreciation. That always happens every year.
Yeah. And I'll talk real quick about the cash too.
Sure, go ahead.
We had our cash went down, but if you look at the actual cash that came out due to operations, it was very minimal. We do not have a big operational and have not had a big operational cash burn. There's been other things that have affected our cash position, but it's not been relegated to the operations. And so we're working through that, and at some point it'll be a little better. I think that's important to note.
Right. And when you say cash going out, it could go out for anything. You had a transformer went out. There's cash going out.
Yep.
You had to have a new valve put in. There's cash going out.
Everything we do is,
it's one cash account. It all goes out of the same account.
But even that, so if you take the amount of money that we spent outbound that was due to CARES Act funding repayment,
Right.
that was a big portion of that loss. Or that cash burn.
So, a lot of times people don't look at that. They just say, oh, gosh, you guys lost money. Well, there's a reason. And sometimes you recover the very next month. It's a matter of timing as well. 3 payroll months, you have
Tougher
that
month.
happen, and it makes it very difficult when you start to look at the bottom line.
Yep.
Very good. So as we take a look at the cash flow statement, cash, like you were just talking about, a lot of these things go out for big items that they're one-time shots.
Yep.
They're not continual. The 340B pharmacy plan, you want to tell us a little bit about that?
So the 340B is probably one of the better things that the government has ever done. And they went through and is not funded by the government. It's administered by the government. And it is a phenomenal program that impresses upon drug companies their need to help less fortunate people. Folks who are going to have a difficult time paying. And for those people who qualify on an outpatient basis, they get reduced rate drugs through this program based on a discount that comes through the program. And so for accessing that program and using that, we get rebates and whatnot. And so we pick up we pick up income in the hospital for doing that, and all of our local pharmacies participate in that.
That's very good. So it's a
And
wonderful program.
And it's actually funded by pharma. They're not enthused about it, but but I am.
All right, very good. Okay, Ashley Sullins gave the chief nursing report.
Mm-hmm. And one of the I keep using this term a lot, and I keep saying blessed. We are unbelievably blessed in this market right now. We are close to fully staffed, although right now there's a whole bunch of patients on the floor and there's a whole bunch of people working really hard right now. But there are other places in the country who are still struggling with the nursing shortage. They're still struggling with the staffing shortage. And from a nursing perspective, knock on wood, we are about as good. There's almost always some hole in your organization, but they are very close to fully staffed. And I want to give John credit and Ashley credit and Jody, our recruiter, all of those people, and frankly the folks that have, through word of mouth helped recruit people here. So we're in a very good position.
Very good. And then Ashley also gives the results of the COVID-19, but now it's flu season, and also RSV has made its head pop up in the last 2 months.
Yep, it's so. It is hard for me as somebody who wants people to be well to say that this is sort of like our Christmas season, but it's sort of like our Christmas season. This is, our ability to care for these patients who have RSV and who have the flu, and although COVID was way different, but who have illness. That's what keeps us here in the summer months.
Mm-hmm. But it can be addressed, and that's what our hospital can address all these things, and our clinic can too.
And I would say that getting your flu shot is important. It's just that this time of the year is tough for folks.
Right, and especially if you're compromised, that COVID-19 booster is available. You need to really get that and the flu together, because they can give them together. If you don't take them together, I think there's a 4-week wait. If you get one, then you have to wait 4 weeks to get the other. So, but you can.
On the other side of the big part of the flu season.
Yeah. Well, our last few years, Wayne, our flu season been March, late February
really?
and March.
Yep.
And it's just really been weird. We'd have a little spike in December, but it seemed like it was always first of spring, just right before spring actually kind of came in. And, of course, Hospital Foundation continues to make some nice plans. They've got coming up on December 7th, a little meeting with the Community Foundation of the Ozarks.
Yep, they're gonna come in and talk to us about investment opportunities so that we can make good use of the resources that the foundation has gained. So we're excited there, and they're also going to participate in a cornhole tournament.
Next March.
So I'm looking forward to that. Although, to your point about flu season, I don't know when winter stops and when spring starts. So March could be either really cold or beautiful.
We've actually, it's been kind of crazy. In February, we've had warmer Februarys than March.
Yeah,
here in the last couple of years. Doesn't seem to make any sense, but we'll have brutally cold beginning of Februarys, and then really nice late Februarys, and then brutally cold March days.
Yeah. So like I said, when I saw that being new to the area, I said it's either going to be awesome or not.
But the cornhole tournament is inside.
That's true. That is true.
That will help a lot.
That is true.
And then, of course, we talked about it last time we got together, Dancing with the Salem Stars.
Yep.
It's going to return, not in 2023, but in 2024.
So those of you who have any kind of rhythm or dancing ability at all, you can get started now.
Go get your dancing shoes out.
Get your dancing shoes out.
Start getting loose. Get all loosened up. Start stretching back out. Let's talk a little bit about old business. We already kind of mentioned a little bit about the pressure regulator valve replacement you brought up at the last meeting. I was not able to stick around for that, but it had to be replaced, and you had to order it in, right?
So we had to order it in, and I will tell you that and again, back to some of the surprises that have come in this area, the quality of the support that we've had from our contractors has been amazing. When we went through the transformer install, when we went through the water install, our maintenance team, their teams working together, we have had very, very minimal disruption to our operations when they did very, very major things. It is impressive to watch.
So when you talk about regulator valve replacement, you're talking about basically shutting the water off.
Yeah, that was as the water comes into the hospital.
Right.
That's what regulates the pressure for all the water in the hospital.
Yep.
So there was no water in the hospital while they did that, and that could have gone tragically bad, but it went extremely well.
Well, and then with the transformer again, the way that Todd Workman and worked with the contractor. Minimal downtime.
Minimal downtime. Had they not worked as well together, we could have been on generator power for hours and hours, if not days. But because of the way they worked that and pre-staged the electrical lines and that, it was amazing. And my intention is to go, I think Thursday is the next county commissioner meeting. My intention is to go and personally thank them for their support of the hospital and helping us with that transform.
They would love to see you. I guarantee you.
I wanted to go when it was done so we could thank them, and now it is finished, and
very good.
The project went very well.
Very good. Kitchen drain proposal.
So yeah,
talk a little bit about this.
So one of the things, and interestingly, today, is it today?
Today's Tuesday.
To 29th?
Yes.
So today is the 90th, my 90th day that I...
90 days.
90 days today. And one of the things that was surprising is the number of emergencies that popped up 20 years ago. And this is one of them. This has been an issue for a long time. They've got drains going under the basement, under the kitchen, that are just absolutely wallowed out. And so we've got to get a plan to replace those so that we can divert the drains in the right place so that it's no longer working under the floors of our hospital. And
they've been there a long time.
They've been there a long time.
Yeah.
They've been there a long time.
And they've had all kinds of stuff go through them, trust me.
Lots.
And carbonation. And were they the old clay pipes? Do you know?
I believe so.
Oh, okay. Well, just a matter of time.
Actually, you know what? They may have been cast.
Okay,
I think they were cast, and I think the carbonation in conjunction just eats that up.
And then any paper that gets in there just catches on the
pulls it off.
Oh, yeah.
Pulls it off. Yeah.
Over time. So... is there a date that they plan on coming back with this proposal, or
we will probably there'll probably be a couple of different proposals about how to pump it, whether we pump it out the back of the hospital towards the lagoon, whether we can figure out a way to pump it into the front of towards the front of the hospital. So there's that, and then staging about how we do that, because it will be disruptive to our kitchen operations.
Can they use a line replacement that they have these new foams that go through there and they can replace?
I don't know. I suspect they're going to have to tear it completely out.
Oh, because there are some of those that are being done now.
I think if we had done this 15 years ago, we probably could have done that. Yeah. But I think the infrastructure is not there for us to be able to line it.
It's just all collapsing in there. Okay, very good. All right, the clinic architect update. You'd had some work done at the clinic.
Yep.
Is that all finished now?
So we've got parts of it done. We've got the 2 registration windows in, and that has helped our workflow. Mm-hmm. But when that clinic, as you probably know, was designed, I think it was designed for 2 separate groups to be independent, and we don't function that way now. Right. So we've got some architect designs that I haven't done anything with yet, but that are to help us be able to connect those 2 together and to make the flow work a little better for us and our patients, give us some more rooms. And I've asked them to do another iteration of that, so they'll do that. And
Has the working tables put behind the windows now better? Because you had some desk out there.
Yeah.
A little bit uncomfortable.
So I think we're much better than we were, but everything is a separate iteration.
Very good. Under new business, it'll be time for a board of director to be elected. It's going to be for District 4.
That's correct. And I think that filing
starts on December 6th.
It's about to start in a couple of weeks.
Yeah, December 6th to the 27th. Very good. And so if you're interested, you're in District 4. If you don't know where District 4 is, call administrative offices. You may want to go there, and they can show you on a map. It's a lot easier to do that than have them describe it.
I won't even pretend to tell you that I have understood where all the districts are.
I haven't either. I've been here a long time, and every time I look at it, I said, so on that side of the street, I'm on District 5, and this one I'm on 4, and they say, yep.
There you go.
That's the way it works. All right, and then we had some purchases. We had a security cameras that definitely needed updating.
Yep. So when we had the state came in for a survey a couple of weeks ago, and it was that one of the things they asked for was video and we have video, but it wasn't recording it right. So that's a big issue for us.
Wow.
We got that approved.
And it's done through a local company, Rommel's Lock and Alarm, and there were other companies that did bid on it as well. But Rommel actually offered you 36 cameras instead of 25, so you actually have better coverage for basically even a less price than you would have paid BCS Enterprises. Yep, very good. All right, and then the Regent storage freezer, you need to replace it.
Yeah. So I will say that one of the things that is pretty amazing is, and I think probably some of it came from the drama that happened a year ago, but the lab has got all kinds of good equipment in there. The lab analyzers are world class.
Right.
Most of them are very good. There's a few pieces that are not right, and one of them was our freezer, and we keep getting alarms from that. And I think it's old enough to vote now, so we can. I think we have fully depreciated it. So. We'll be replacing that soon.
But what I like the little note on the bottom is that the 25 cubic foot freezer not only fits within the space of the old one, but it will double the storage space that you have.
Yep.
So very good. So you get even more storage.
And then we won't have to defrost it every 30 minutes.
There you go.
It's tough.
And then Tiffin gave her report on marketing and community perception. Was she there to give that report?
No.
No. Okay, so we just kind of went over that with the
that
different
that whole
things
thing.
because her community champ. She's a community
Yeah,
champion.
she's community champion and will be responsible now for the whole of the Delta project.
Right.
In the next 30 days.
I thought she might have given a report on
No,
that meeting
so
she
we
held
just-
that Thursday.
Yeah, so we just presented that to folks so that they would know that we are working diligently in the community to what our outreach is. And I wanted to make mention of the Delta project on the far right-hand side of that is when we had the community event. And I want to thank everybody that participated in the community event. It went, I think, extremely well. And it was gratifying to hear from that group how important the hospital is and how they could work together to begin to integrate the hospital better into the community needs for the future.
Very good. Very good. All right, then we got some upcoming events. Obviously, we have a strategic planning meeting coming up. The foundation, we already talked about, going to meet with Community Foundation of the Ozarks. Strategic planning will be held the day after that, on the 8th.
Yeah, we're going to get together some folks, and whenever I interviewed here and we first started here, one of the things that I said that we need to do is we have gotten so in the moment to get through the crisis, and we've done a good job with that. Now it's time for to pick our eyes up and look down the road and figure out where does this hospital need to be and how can it best support the community 5 years from now. And if we don't think about that today and we continue to live in the moment, as Wayne Gretzky said, you've got to skate to where the puck is going to be. And so what we're going to try to do is predict where we need to be and work together with our board to help set that.
And if I can backtrack for just a minute back to that meeting that Tiffin held with the Delta Regional, it was good to get a view from the outside where, everybody in the hospital, like you say, you've been fighting this crisis and your concentration's been on the hospital and the operations, absolutely. But then you get the people who are on the outside to see the effects of that, but also what they see, why it's so important to have the hospital. Those outside eyes are so key to the strategic planning because now you actually get a chance to say, hey, this is what people say we need. This is what people say we need to do. Is it possible for us to even do it?
And I'll go back to the employee survey. You can make assumptions about what your community needs, but it's far better to ask your community what the community thinks they need. And are there some of those things that we can do? Sure. Are there some of those things that won't be appropriate for us? Yes. But as a group, can we find resources to work together to make those things happen? A whole lot easier if we have the conversation than if we just don't.
Right, and if there's a need for a physician, maybe you can get a visiting physician to come into town. If that's what the community says, hey, we really need this, it's something the hospital can look into and then plan for down the future.
Yep.
Holiday dinner on the 14th, that's usually a medical staff dinner, and then a board of directors dinner as well.
Yep.
And that will also be a meeting that night.
We'll have a brief board meeting that night.
Usually a very quick one.
It will be very quick.
Very quick. And then I saw a board of directors meeting on the 17th of January. Is that right? That's a little early. Are we changing meeting dates?
No, I think that's when the calendar popped up.
Maybe it will be. It's always the first Tuesday after the third Monday.
So we probably started the January probably starts on a Monday. So that may be why it looks early.
I'd still have to be in the 20s.
Well,
I would think maybe.
I didn't move the meeting.
No, maybe not. Maybe not. Maybe the 15th. But 15th would be probably Martin Luther King Day, and
Yeah.
so some people don't have meetings on the holiday. So I'm good with it.
I'm just,
I'm good.
I inherited that date.
That's
I
not a
inherited
problem.
that. I
Not a
inherited
problem.
that
So it'll be
date.
on the 17th of January. Very good. In the closed session, any votes taken during closed session?
No, we just some information shared, and that was it.
Very good. Sir, thank you very much.
We appreciate you, and I want to thank you for what you do for the community and your support of the hospital. And I want to thank everybody again, 90 days in, for the warm welcome that we have here. I was just telling you before we started that we're moving into our house, and my wife and I are just delighted to be here.
Well, we appreciate you coming and all the good things that our hospital is doing and will continue to do and improve on, because I've seen what's going on at the hospital, and a lot of people haven't had the opportunity that I do to go see the board meetings and hear the questions that the board asks. And by the way, the board meetings are open to the public.
Mm-hmm.
You're more than welcome to show up at them and get a chance to hear them firsthand. And that's why we do tell you when the next board meetings are, and they are at 6:00 in the hospital library. And board members, I will say, and I've been to a lot of different boards, our hospital board members are very involved in asking a lot of questions and putting their input in, because a lot of times you see boards just sit there and they become bobbleheads. They just sit there and they nod and they don't do anything. Not our hospital board. I will say that they ask a lot of questions. They're very involved. And if you want to be a board member for District 4 and want to sign up and be a part of that team, I highly recommend it. It is a 6-year term, by the way. So,
but it's a very fulfilling place to be. You're making an impact.
And they've made some tough decisions here in the last year. You know, we know about a year ago at this time, that's when we started finding out about our lab.
Yeah, so I will say that one of the things that we're going to do on Friday is we're going to recognize that a year ago on Friday was the day that the lab issue occurred, and we're not celebrating that, but what we are is we're thanking the team for the strong work that they did and the turnaround that they've made.
It's been an amazing comeback in a very short period of time. It seems like a lot longer right now because we look back a year, but going through that whole year of change and adaptation and watching our hospital almost close.
Yeah, I don't know that anybody who does this for a living could have predicted that a year from now we'd be having this conversation. I think if it hadn't been for some really talented people who invested a huge amount of time, effort, and energy, both inside that organization and out, we would be having I first of all wouldn't be here, and you as a community would be having a very different conversation. So what a difference a year makes.
And let's really, when we start looking at the changes being made, I know you had your meet and greet in September. That doesn't seem that long ago.
Nope.
And now we're talking about expanding services at the clinic to Saturdays, and we have the new CT going. We've got, as you mentioned, the lab is doing tremendous work now in recovering, getting back. But the hospital services that we still offer here in Salem are some of the most affordable you're going to find in the state.
And there's a lot of them here.
Yes.
It's amazing the things that this hospital, one of the things that, whenever as an administrator, whenever I was looking for a role, you see some critical access hospitals, and they don't have nearly the infrastructure that this does. This is really well positioned for the future. I mean, there's some things that we need to do here, and if we stay this way, then we won't be successful. Right. But we have all the opportunity to be successful here.
And we do wish you the very best. And if I don't get a chance to tell you, I wish you a very Merry Christmas.
Yes, sir.
I'm pretty sure I'm going to be at that meeting. But, sometimes I get basketball in the way.
Well, you have to have your priorities.
Since I do the play-by-play, the priority is I'm the only one that does that.
That's right.
But unfortunately, I had to leave that last board meeting a little bit early, but was able to hear the audit, and I was glad I was able to hear that, because I always like to hear what the hospital, where the auditors feel like the hospital stands, and they don't mince words.
No.
But
that's not what we pay them for.
No, and they come out and they said that it was kind of a mess. But she, Jean tells the truth. She says, you look back at Salem a year ago, and they've gone through, and she says there's not many hospitals that could have done this. Yeah, Salem got some help. Their board of directors got on board just in time, and they had to make some massive changes.
Massive.
And it had to be done. However, when I hear the auditors talk and they said we've corrected this, we've done this, RSG came in, did a great job of stabilizing everything, and then starting to put some systems into place that were going to change the hospital around. And then she's talking about other critical access or other hospitals, not even critical access, that are shutting down because they didn't take those actions. And Wayne, you know as well as I do, it's not a popular vote when you have to take some actions and maybe let people go or make changes in what people have always done for the last 35 years. I don't want to change anything. Well, maybe you have to make those changes to survive because the world's different than it was 35 years ago.
So I think I may have shared this with you, but in September, the 1st of September, in Atlanta, Georgia, a 442-bed level 1 trauma center announced it was closing in 2 months. And now, Grady Memorial, I have no idea what they're doing, but that community lost a 442-bed hospital in 60 days, and no one saw it coming. It is that fast. It is that hard to run. So again, this is as important to this community as that is to there. But that is a big organization with probably 1,500 people that is just gone.
Yeah. Wow. That's a big campus there, too, that's just sit there idle.
Yep.
And all that work and money that's gone into it, it's just...
And the thing that is the same for that facility as there was for every other facility, the thing that they all have in common is they are full of people who are working really hard and want to do the right thing.
Sure.
None of that is a castigation against them. They want to do the right thing, and they were working really hard, and now they're not. It's that fast.
Right. And when I look back in a year's time, to get the lab back, to get everything back up, to put the CT in, to make the changes that are still being planned. And then, of course, what we didn't see, the transformer problem, and then the water replacement valve problem, the kitchen drain problem, the different things that have come up, and we just keep on cruising right through. It doesn't throw a red flag up where we have to surrender. We just fight our way through and find a way to solve the problem.
If you don't like that sort of thing, this is a bad business for you to be in.
Yes, sir. That's why we got you here. That's right. But Wayne, thank you very much for coming in.
Thank you so much. We appreciate you.
Wayne Reid, our CEO at the hospital. We do appreciate him taking the time out of his day to come in. And again, if you have any questions about something you heard here or something you read in the paper, if you've got questions, feel free to call the hospital at 729-6626. Ask for administration, and they'll be more than happy to tell you and get you the right person. If you need to talk to Ashley Sullins or you need to talk to Bobby or somebody else in radiology, they will direct you right to them. If you already know the extension, dial it in, right. and then you can go right to them and get the answers you need. If you do need questions about District 4, and I'm not even going to dare to attempt where District 4 is, please do stop in the hospital, the administration office, and take a look at it. They do have a map right there, and it might be a little bit more clear if you actually are in District 4 or not. And I can kind of give you an idea where that might be, maybe location. I don't really even know where District 4 is, and I won't even attempt.
I heard south.
There's a lot of south in Denton County.
Yeah, that's what I heard, and that could be wrong. Again,
I don't have any idea, and I just do know that people really have a great amount of people out there who would probably, I would hope, love to serve on the hospital board. And if you do have that hankering to do that, feel free to go sign up for that. And there is no charge to sign up, by the way, but you do have to get done by December 27th. A lot of times, Wayne, years ago, that used to be January 17th or 18th, the day after Martin Luther King Day. Changed that law this year. So it's only 21 days to register. Yes, very, very short.